Hello cruel world. In this video I'm going to tell you what schizophrenia is and what schizophrenia isn't. My name's Dr. Sohom Das. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. So who can get schizophrenia? The answer is anybody. It tends to happen slightly more to males than it does to females. It affects about 1% of the population and it usually comes on roughly in your 20s. In terms of causes, there's no such thing as a cause of schizophrenia, but there are lots of contributory factors. So for example, there's environmental factors. So living in a city, such as London, increases the risk of developing schizophrenia. Having an infection during pregnancy increases the risk of the child growing up to develop schizophrenia. Certain illicit drugs cause schizophrenia in people who are predisposed, so people who are vulnerable to psychosis, particularly like skunk cannabis. So I'm not saying cannabis is dangerous for everybody, I'm saying for a small subsection of people who are predisposed, it's very dangerous. Also social problems like poverty, homelessness, again they don't cause schizophrenia, but they can precipitate it in people who are vulnerable. But by far the biggest factor is genetics. So schizophrenia is hereditary to a degree. It's not directly inherited through one gene, but there's lots of clusters of genes that kind of contribute to it. So as I said before, 1% of the population gets schizophrenia. If you've got a first degree relative with schizophrenia, so like a parent or a brother or sister, then your chances of developing it are 10%. And if both of your parents have schizophrenia, then your chances of developing it are about 50%. And that's not that far-fetched because, for example, people, men and women, might meet each other in psychiatric hospitals and can often couple together. So it happens more often than you think. So what are the symptoms of schizophrenia? They're broken down into positive symptoms and negative symptoms. Positive symptoms, the ones that are most common, are hallucinations and delusions. Hallucinations most often take the form of auditory hallucinations, so that's hearing voices. So a good example of this are command hallucinations, which is a voice telling you to hurt people or to hurt yourself. And for some sufferers, it just becomes unbearable and they feel compelled to listen to this voice. In terms of delusions, because I work with offenders, by far the most common type of delusion I see are paranoid delusions. Very common ones are delusions of being followed, delusions of cameras being planted to watch you, or delusions that your food is being poisoned. And just to kind of mix it up, to give you some unusual delusions that I've personally heard of in my previous patients, I met a man who was convinced that other people thought he was a paedophile, and obviously was very distressed about people judging him when he was out and about. And I met a woman in prison who believed that she was slowly changing gender to become a male against her wishes. You can have other types of delusions as well. So grandiose delusions, a common one is that people think that they're exceptionally intelligent, have a really high IQ, or have special abilities. Or for example, delusions of reference. That's when something completely neutral that's got nothing to do with you, the sufferer believes that it's like sending a message or has a direct link to them. So I saw a man who was convinced that number plates that had the same letters as his surname were somehow mocking him. And then there's the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. So that's things that are missing from your personality. So being really withdrawn, being isolated, complete lack of energy or drive to do anything. So typically somebody with negative symptoms of schizophrenia might just be spend all their time in their bedrooms and refuse to speak to anybody. Hello cruel world. What you just witnessed was a tiny little taste of a much longer episode where I do a deep dive, and you can check out the full video in the link in the description below. If you like your true crime with a twist of psychiatry, then you've got to check out the other videos on my channel, A Psych for Sore Minds. It's the crossover between mental illness and offending. I cover a whole range, a smorgasbord of topics, from high-profile true crime cases to individual psychiatric diagnoses to aspects of a criminality. There's something for everybody on my channel. Go check it out, have a blessed day, and whatever happens, stay euthymic, and remember, I love you.